you do that? How did you do that?
Welcome back everyone to another episode of All About Mechanics, and this is a brand new episode. We have done with the dungeons until they bring out some more, but this is actually an arena guide. This is for the Dragonstar Arena on Veteran, of course, and we're going to use the same setup as we did in all the dungeon guides with one healer, one tank, one stamina DPS, and one magicka DPS as well, so that no roles are left out. Of course, if you've really experienced, especially by now since it's been in the game for a very long time, you can go straight through and nuke it, but if you're not that experienced, I'm going to explain how all the mechanics work so you can get through this for your first time. Here we go. Now, if you're not already familiar with Dragonstar Arena, it's a 4-person instance. There's 10 levels in total, or 10 arenas, and each one has 5 rounds, except for the last one. The last one actually has just one because it's the last boss. Now, what you need to do is kind of course, coordinate together as a group, but you do need to make sure that your tank, above all, because it's all on the tank for the most part, is very aware of what's coming next. So you'll get multiple waves of enemies all the way up to the last round, and then you'll get a major boss. Now, these do vary quite a bit, but you get the usual suspects. You get your melee guys, you get your range guys like your archers or your mages and stuff like that. And you also get healers as well, which you have to pay attention to. Now, obviously, key points are to make sure that your tank pulls things in as soon as possible, so they're inside the group so you can get them down quicker. And of course, your group needs to make sure they pay attention to the basic mechanics in terms of heavy attacks, getting out of stupid, and interrupting. As you can see here, the healers can heal each other, so obviously you need to make sure you bash them to stop them from doing so. There's conal effects you have to watch out for, and in this arena specifically, you do have to watch out for anything with a flag on its back. Most enemies don't do too much damage to a DPS or a healer, but those flag guys really hurt. So as the tank, you want to make sure, like I've said already, you pull everything in as close as possible and contain it in a small space so your group can take it down, but you do have to make sure that you prioritize targets. Now, there are some enemies in here that will one-shot DPS and healers, so you do have to make sure that you taunt those first, above all, while managing the rest of the enemies. Again, anything with a flag on it, make sure you grab it. If it's got a two-hander, it's going to uppercut people. If it's got a sword and board, it's likely to knock them down. And if it's got a staff, it's likely to cast some rather nasty direct damage. So you want to make sure that you avoid those at all costs. If you are DPS or healers, make sure you stand behind the enemies, not in front of them, because they cleave. And this guy here, this sword and board dude with a banner, is very similar to the boss that's coming up in a short while. Basically, he'll drop a circle of protection on the ground, and if he's standing in it, he'll heal, and so will anyone else near him. So you got to make sure that you get him out of the circle. That was your first basic mechanic that you have to learn for this particular arena. If you look up there on the right, you can see there's some blue flames. Each one represents a finished round. So we're actually on round 3 now. We're staying near the gate because this is where the enemies tend to spawn, the most dangerous ones. The rest can kind of come to us by sneaking around the corner, and the tank can just taunt them or chain them in as we need to. Again, stay out of their faces. You can see we're trying to stay away from where the tank is aiming them to, and interrupt as and when you can. They don't have too much health in this round. It's not that stressful, but you do have to make sure that you don't get heavy attacked by the big guys. It really hurt if you get caught by those. Priority targets, of course, as far as killing is concerned, those can be interrupted, by the way. The two-handers need to die first. Anything with a banner should die first, but especially the two-handers because they do hit very hard. Stay close to your group. Don't try to stack too tightly, but do make sure that you can stay relatively close together so you're inside your own heals and damage over time. Now, the next round, we've got some nasty ones here. You have to be very careful. Grab these guys straight away. They will try and nuke a DPS with some nasty magic damage, and there's a two-hander coming straight in from range. Going to come straight at me. You have to watch out for those. If he uppercuts you, you're dead. So you've got two choices, block or dodge roll. If he catches you, it's very unlikely that you'll survive. And although this is the first round, you do see a lot of wipes here by people getting a little bit too complacent and forgetting those basic mechanics. Healer at the back there, obviously don't run across those spikes on the ground. They will stab you in the feet and do loads of damage. They're little traps. Loads and loads of holes in them, walk across, spikes come up. Don't touch them. We're trying to stay fairly kind of compact in this little corner here because it's a little bit safer, especially when pulling the boss. Now, all arenas are not like this. You don't have to stand in one spot, but we do choose to have certain locations where we stand. Now, this is the boss. Of course, you got to make sure that you focus down those ads, get rid of them. They heal, they do nasty damage, they have AoEs. You got to make sure you get those down, and your tank should turn the boss away from the group at all times. There's a nasty frontal AoE Dawnbreaker and a really nasty heavy attack. There's the cleave you got to watch out for. That's the Dawnbreaker. And then, of course, you also have this circle of protection, which you've already seen. Now, this circle, you have to get the boss out of it. So your tank should be walking out of the circle and replacing the boss in another location. So if you don't, the boss will heal very, very fast. This boss can heal to full in a matter of seconds. So this is very, very important that you keep the boss out of the circles. So the rest of the time you are getting ads, you will have to control them. It's a little bit safer if you make sure that obviously the DPS focus the ads first and then the boss second, because then you don't have to have all the stressful damage coming in from the sides. But above all, make sure your tank is maintaining a taunt at all times and constantly turning that boss away from the group. Do not turn it on the group, because if you do, the Dawnbreakers will wreck everybody. Again, we've got a third wave of ads. These are on health percentages as well, so they will come throughout the fight. There's 3 waves of them overall. But you've got 2 choices. You can finish off the boss when it's really, really low health, or just control the ads and then finish the boss after. Again, though, it will drop a circle of protection on the ground, and you must get the boss out of it. It's not really a mobile fight, depending on how much damage you've got, but you do have to move every so often to make sure that that boss does not heal. Now, once you've finished every single arena, the gate will open. You'll be able to go through, you get a chest, and you get some loot, which is only available in this particular arena. And there's also a scamp here where you can repair your armor. You may want to do this per round if this is your first run. If you're going for speed runs or you're going for score runs and stuff like that, you already know what to do. But if not, and you're not too sure of yourself, it helps to repair every round so that you're fresh in the next arena. Now, the next one is all ice and snow and stuff everywhere, and this has got a unique mechanic to it. You can see that there's bonfire type areas. Now, this is where you are safe. If you're standing in the snow, you will take damage over time and you will end up freezing and dying. If you stay near the bonfires, you will actually be fairly warm and you won't freeze to death. However, they do run out eventually. So when they run out, you need to look for the torches on the edges of the arena, run over, activate it, and then come back with the torch to light the bonfires back up again. So bear that in mind for when the bonfires go out, you must relight them. Now, this is a very simple kind of area to kind of sit in to start with. You can go anywhere really. You can go the right side, the left side, or in the middle, but we chose the left side here. And basically just pull all the ads into the middle and deal with them as and when you can. The tank, again, should aggro pretty much everything, but obviously prioritize those nasty targets. So any archers or anything need to be pulled in as soon as possible, because they have some really, really negative long-range damage. And also anything with a sword and board or a two-hander. Now, the bears do hit quite hard, but they're very, very sluggish, so you can kind of move away from their attacks. But if they do heavy attack you, you've got to make sure that you either block or dodge roll them. But these banner dudes must be dealt with. They must be interrupted, so be very, very careful if they start running wild. If they do run out of the AoEs and they don't stay where you want them, you do have to maintain a taunt on them as a tank at least, so you can burn them down without them nuking the group. Most casters in here have some really nasty direct damage, so it's very easy to look at them as a squishy and just ignore them and find yourself on the floor. So be very, very careful of those. Anything that is ranged, make sure you kill it quickly. Now, again, it's another basic pull. We've got a few ads. The tank should obviously prioritize the big stuff and hold it still. You've got a big two-hander here with a banner. Keep away from him if you're a DPS or a healer as far as his frontal area of effect is concerned. You don't want to get caught by those cleaves, but the tank should obviously be turned away from the group anyway. Remember, basic mechanics. Don't stand in stupid and don't stand where the tank is standing. The reason the tank is turned away with a big shield and lots of armor is because he can take it. You are not designed to if you're a DPS or a healer, so stay out of the faces of the enemies. Now, this big AoE on the ground, very easy to avoid. It's massive. Just stay out of it. Archers, again, you know you need to focus these guys because they do hit very, very hard. But at the same time, we do have a bear, and we've got another fairly nasty dual wield in the middle. The dual wield isn't too much to deal with as long as he's aggroed. Doesn't hit too hard. But you do want to get him down in case he starts spinning, because if you're low health after that bear comes in, you can die quite quickly. I've seen a few wipes because of that, dude. Now, this is where Screw Loose has gone to pick up the flame. Off the side, there's a torch, and now he's relit the bonfire. That keeps us alive. If you don't do that, you will end up freezing to death. Now we've got trolls. Now, these do hit quite hard. The tank needs to prioritize these as soon as possible. The group should try and kill them as quick as they can, of course, but in the meantime, make sure you deal with all the small stuff. There's a two-hander there who can uppercut, so watch him, and you've got these ice wraiths as well. Everyone should stay out of the front of the troll while trying to kill it. And also, the ice wraiths do charge at people. They do have nasty heavy attacks. You've got to make sure you're not in their face. Big banner, frost mage type woman at the back here. Interrupt her attacks and also kill her as a priority, because those light attacks that look really, really tiny hurt like hell. Another archer in the back there. Your tank should prioritize these. Pull them in while you're damaged on the ground. This is a key point, by the way, as DPS. Make sure your damage is always on the ground. Whether it's caltrops, or Wall of Elements or whatever, even if you're not doing rotations, always keep a dot on the ground. That way, as enemies come in, they can passively take damage while you're preparing yourself for the fights. Now, as you can see here, the bonfire has gone out. We've had to pick up a torch to relight the bonfire, otherwise we all freeze to death. There will be periods of time where you may find that you've got lots and lots of ice in the room and the fire is out for too long. When that happens, keep your healer healing. You can survive it for a short period of time while you're in transit from one place to another while picking up the torch to light the bonfire. So just be careful there. Very simple pull here. Put everything in together, stay out the face of the troll, and kill the group of enemies. But, as you just saw then, that archer was channeling an ability. Archers are now really dangerous. They can take aim and you don't want to get caught by them. So make sure your tank chains those in as soon as possible whenever you see an archer. Same prioritization as before, always the big stuff first, especially two-handers or sword and boards or trolls. But the mages that are coming in will kind of spawn roughly where we are, but the archers will always be on the edges from this round onwards, so be very, very quick to pull those in. Now we're coming up to the boss fight. There's actually two bosses here and a massive wave of adds, so your tank needs to be awake. Now what you need to do here is basically just pin them both in the corner and keep an eye on that bonfire. If that bonfire goes out, you need to relight it as soon as possible, but we've focused the mage. The tank has obviously taunted both of them, but the two-hander is being held, turned away from the group, as is the mage. But we are attacking the mage from behind, so she can't actually put out any frontal effects, and the two-hander can't do any frontal effects either. Just focus her down, keep on interrupts whenever she starts channeling abilities, and you'll be just fine. Now, while this is happening, you will get two-handers coming into the group. There's a troll also, so be very careful. Don't run around like a headless chicken and being scared. Just stay out of AoEs, be careful, and keep your damage on the ground while the tank controls those. As you can see, our tank has kept them all on the other side of the bonfire, so we're all fairly safe. Now, the next wave of adds is quite nasty. The two-hander is going to wreck people, so the tank has to be very quick to grab that one. And also there was an archer there as well, which you do have to chain in. You can see him on the outside of the room now. He is a problem. He is very, very underestimated. You don't want to get caught in that cone, and you also don't want him to take aim on you, so the tank should pull him in as soon as possible. Even though we were focusing the boss there, we still had to make sure that we CC'd that archer and interrupt if necessary so he doesn't nuke members of the group. He can one-shot people, so be very, very careful. Obviously, the gate is now open since we've done round 5 of this arena. And of course, same as before, you can go and loot your stuff and you can repair if need be. So, this is again very handy to have that little scamp there to make sure that your armor gets fixed. Now, this round is a bit of a pain in the ass for those that don't watch their feet. Now, as we come into this room, you can see on the left-hand side there's a torch, just to where my character is now, and directly opposite is another torch. Now, we are going to stand in line between those two torches the whole fight, if we can help it, until the boss. The reason being is in the middle of the room there's going to be a massive, massive poison circle. To our left there's going to be a huge poison circle. In every little cubby hole in here, we've got 3 major poison circles and then 1 big one in the middle. Now, if we stand between these two torches and don't deviate to our left or right too far by about 5 or 6 feet, then we will never, ever get caught in that poison. So bear that in mind. This is why we stand here. Now, you want to pull in all the adds first of all, of course, as the tank, and keep your damage down on the floor. But you do, as DPS, need to prioritize the Nerid because they put nasty AoEs on the ground and the group will get nuked. In the meantime, these crocodiles need to be focused by the tank and turned away from the group because they do have really heavy cleaves and they will kill people very, very quickly. They'll stun them, they'll knock them down, and you won't last very long. Now, the conjurers do need to be pulled in as well. They have some pretty hefty direct damage from long range, so be very careful of those. We've got another one to our left now, which should be interrupted from range if possible. Now, this area that we're standing in is going to get poisoned very shortly, but before that we're actually going to get a Wamasu in the room, which hits really bloody hard, so you have to be very careful of those. It's coming in on the next wave, but again, these are priority targets, so crocodiles, Nerids and Wamasus need to die first. Next up is of course your casters. Casters do need to be killed. They've got very low health, but they are a pain in the ass and they can do quite high damage. Now, we've got the wizards coming into the room. As you saw where he just spawned, later will be stranglers. You have to be very careful of those. Make sure the Wamasu is turned away from the group. You can use ultimates here if you want. Don't save your ultimates till Christmas. You can use them. You've got 5 rounds to do. Just use and abuse them as and when you need to. But priority targets, obviously, it's more beneficial. Now, there's the poison circle. Now, we're between the two torches, so we didn't get touched. In a moment, you'll see one in the middle. There's the middle one as well. And as you can see from where we're standing, it can't get us. Now, the only thing that can get us is there's a strangler on the other side of the room. Now, that can pull you across the room. And if it happens, dodge roll mid-pull, and it will just put you back to where you stood. Failing that, as you can see, we've sent Screw Loose to the other side of the room when it's clear, and he has gone to kill the strangler on his own, and now he's come back again. That way nobody gets pulled and everybody's happy. Now, the two pillars that we're standing between, or the two torches areas, there's stranglers that can spawn just underneath them, so do be aware of those when the rounds start. So you can see just here, there's an ad spawning straight away. That's a strangler, get rid of it. Get your tank to grab the Wamasu and the crocodiles, stack them all together, and the group should stand out of the face of those nasty lizards, because they really, really hurt. You've got ultimates here, go for it. If you don't, then you just have to keep up your rotations and survive. As you can see there, a strangler just died on the other corner as well. They will pull you in, they've got massive range. They don't have a lot of health, so just kill them quickly and then deal with the ads after, if you have to. Nerid, again, priority target, although there's not much else in the room at the moment anyway, but you do have to kill those because their wind AoEs that they put underneath the ground are very, very strong. As you can see, that big poison circle at the back, one to our left. We are not in danger. We can stand here all day and not get touched by any poison. This is why we position ourselves in this manner. As you can see, Screw has gone to the other side of the room again to go and get rid of the strangler, just to save any of us being pulled across the room. Make sure that the person that does that is very good with their feet, because otherwise they may unfortunately run straight across the middle and get poisoned and die. One more round to go before we hit the boss round. This one has a few stranglers, a few wizards. You do have to make sure as the tank that you pull these in very, very quickly. The healer's going to have to be really on point because there's a lot of damage over time coming in. Grab that Wamasu, stick it in the middle of the group and turn his face away from people. As you can stand as close to him as you like, but as long as you're not in front of his face. When he's doing his AoEs, of course. Now, be very careful here. We've got two stranglers. One just tried to pull me in from the side, but I blocked, so it's fine. And there's also one Nerid coming in as well. You do want to prioritize the Nerid before anything else, even though we've got a crocodile in the room. As you saw there, it just pulled me in. I'm already in a prime location to actually get rid of those, so I'll kill them. Screw Loose does not need to come over to this side now, because he can deal with the ads on his own on the other side where the healer's keeping him up. So you do all need to know what's going on here. You don't want someone to go over there and go, oh my god, I've been pulled by a strangler, and then just die anyway because they don't know what to do. If it's you over there, deal with it. And if you're a tank or a healer, then try and keep yourself alive and come back to the group and let somebody else go and deal with it. They're really stubborn. They can be chained, but he was CC'd, so he wasn't coming in. Now the boss, this is where we move. We go and stand in this corner instead, where the strangler keeps spawning. And this particular corner is also safe from all the poison. There'll be a big circle in front of us and a big circle to the left in the middle of the room. Basically, we want to try and stack these two bosses on this corner, but the mage can be a little tricky. So it's not always that easy to do. Sometimes you have to walk backwards and overshoot her range. Failing that, you can just stack them where we are right now. So we did try to pull them aside, but they weren't having none of it. So we waited for her to teleport, and then we decided to burn her down. Now she can be interrupted. She puts some nasty AoEs on the ground, which you must stay out of. But during the fight, you will also get a lot of ads, which you will have to deal with, and they are not fun. But above all, remember where your feet are. You mustn't stand in the middle of the room. You mustn't stand on the edges where the bosses spawn, because if you do, the poison will come out from underneath your feet and you will die. But above all, focus this mage. Always go for the mage first. The melee guy is very easy to manage for the tank. Just hold it still and block. But the mage can be a pain. As you saw then, I teleported all the way back. That's because if you dodge roll or break free during a strangler pull, you actually end up back where you were. Bit weird, but it works. Now the Wamasu is in. You can see that the tank has pulled it straight on top of the boss and turned it away from everybody, so we're not getting cleaved. Keep your dots down, keep AoE heals down, and focus as much on those new ads as you can. Nerids and Wamasus must die. Now it's just a case of finishing the job. The melee is actually a little bit lower than the mage, so we decided to switch targets and burn that one down first. But priority target generally tends to be the mage, because that's the one with all the nasty interrupts and teleport, and then by the time you catch up with her sometimes it can be too late. So try to focus her if you can. But in this instance, of course, it was more beneficial for us to focus on the melee instead, because of where he's positioned. As you can see here, the two big circles didn't touch us. Obviously the gate is open, we're finished. Be very careful that round, by the way. That's the one that wipes people most of the time because of the poison. As you saw then, we had two very safe locations where we could stand and everything was fine. You can stand there from the very beginning if you prefer, but it's entirely up to you and your group and how you want to manage things. Don't forget to loot, don't forget to repair if you need to. Now this round is tricky. Not because the enemies are particularly hard, but because they do hit fairly hard, and they have an unusual mechanic. When you have a beam attached to you by one of the enemies with their sword held high in the air, that is when you need to go and run to one of the edges of the arena and stand still until an ad pops out from underneath you. I'll explain more about that at the moment. But first, we have to deal with all this stuff. So you want to make sure that the melees are pulled in as soon as possible. You want to make sure that all the enemies that are ranged are somewhat interrupted or pulled in and controlled in the middle of the room. Remember, as DPS and healers, you do not want to stand in front of some of this stuff because they do cleave. It's quite nasty. But you do want to make sure, above all, your priority targets in this area, regardless of who looks bigger than who, that squid's not really a problem, you've got to interrupt and kill those night blades. Any of those nasty casters need interrupting and killing. They must go down. Their single target hits are the worst. They hit very, very hard. You'll find that throughout this entire arena. Most of the ranged mage type DPS really hit hard. So be very, very careful. Most of this particular round is a bit of a stack and burn fest. So you can get them down. But once you get to like the third or fourth round, it starts getting a bit more difficult. All the melee stuff needs to come in. Now this is what we're looking at. You see this dude at the back here with a beam on me? This beam spawns an enemy underneath my feet. And I haven't noticed it yet. So you'll see that when there you go, smoke pops out and a little dude spinning his sword comes out from underneath me. Those will wreck the group in about 2 or 3 ticks. So you don't want to get caught by those. You can kill them, don't necessarily have to, but you can kill them. But you must stand on the edge of the AoE, otherwise you will die. The enslavers will actually cast a beam repeatedly, one to the next to the next. Every time it's finished doing its motions, it will put another one on another target. So you do want to get the enslavers down, but the shadows themselves you can kind of ignore. But the shadows will pop out once the beam is finished. So if you kill the enslaver or you wait for it to run its course, it will spawn a shadow underneath you. And like I said at the very beginning, the trick to that is to kind of just move to one side and stay in your heals. So the healer needs to prioritize you. And you can just drop it off at the side and come back in again. That's really relevant for the last boss of this particular round, or this arena even. Now your tank will have to, of course, prioritize the Night Blades and put everything in and keep it inside the AoEs. But again, pay close attention to the enslavers. Shadows can be left alone, enslavers have to be killed. There's Screwloose out the side, he's just dropped his shadow on the ground, as you can see the big spinning AoE, and the enslavers come into the group. If you kill the enslaver, you're good. If you don't, he'll just continuously keep dropping shadows on the group, and you don't want that to happen. You see him place it out to the side there, so it's safe for us. We don't have to run into it or anything. That's what you need to do as a group. Now, one person in the group right now has got another shadow coming out. I think Fire's got one dropping in the middle of the room. We're just going to kill that anyway, because there's nothing else left to kill, except for the enslaver that comes with it. So hold them together and kill them, but do not stand in those circles. Tank can probably stand inside of it, but DPS and healers definitely cannot. Now, I've got a beam on me again from an enslaver, and so is Screw. So we've split up so we don't drop our shadows on top of each other. But just make your group aware that you're about to drop a shadow in the middle of the room. Otherwise, they will all stack up and die. I've just going to drop mine on top of that enemy right there, so they're nice and bunched up together. They don't run around the room. Literally, they just sit there spinning and spinning and spinning. And then when they're finished, they'll do a little dance and they'll start spinning again. They're really not that much of a problem, as long as you don't stand on them. So, enslavers do have to be killed. Shadows can be left for a bit. But when it comes to the boss, that's when it gets really, really tricky, because these do carry over to the next fight. The shadows can just sit there spinning and spinning and spinning and spinning because they're not part of the actual mechanics themselves as far as ads are concerned. They are spin-offs of the ads. The enslavers are what you need to kill. So while we're killing the enslavers and leaving the shadows down on the ground, we haven't even noticed that the boss has just now come in the room. So what you need to do is the tank needs to grab that boss and obviously hold it as still as possible without nuking the group, because it has nasty AoEs, and we now have to deal with enslavers and shadows at the same time. Remember, shadows can be left to their own devices. Enslavers must not be, because we'll just get peppered in ads and the room will be filled. So what you need to do is every time you see an enslaver, make sure the tank puts the boss near it so it can take additional AoE damage. Kill the enslaver, let the shadow drop, and carry on the boss. Or, if you've got a beam on you, run to one side, drop your shadow, and come back in again. You can see here that she put down some nasty, nasty AoE, so you don't want to get caught by those. We are going to clean the room out a little bit because we've got a little bit too many of them, which you can choose to do if you want, and then get back to the boss after. The tank is literally just moving around at the moment, not running too much, but just trying to keep it near the ads so we can get splash damage on some of them while we're dealing with the trouble. Now again, we've got an enslaver to our side there. We're going to make sure that he does go down with the boss, but we are going to get another one in the room. You can see that Screw has now got a beam on him, and we've been aware of it. So he's just running off. He's going to put it in the corner, make sure the healer stays on him, and leave that assassin in the corner, or Shadow even in the corner. Now, we did have another one on the tank then, which has also been placed on the side. You can see we've got one on the left, one on the right now. We're just dropping them in the corners and basically leaving them alone. Hold the boss still, drop a Shadow off, come back in. Hold the boss still, drop a Shadow off, come back in. If an enslaver comes in, take the boss to the enslaver and kill them together. Another Shadow put on the side there. Not really much of a problem, but we do want to get rid of the enslaver, otherwise he'll give us loads and loads of Shadows. We don't want multiples if we can help it. We'll get a few, but we don't want too many. You can see Fires just now took the boss over to a new enslaver, stack it on his feet, and we carry on as normal. It's rinse repeat all the way through this process. You don't actually have to do anything too stressful. You can just stay out of AoEs, stack a boss on a new enslaver, kill it, and carry on. Now I will note at this point, by the way, when you do have the beams on you from the enslavers, you do take damage over time. So the healer does need to be really on point with this, otherwise the DPS can die quite quickly. Also, the boss does do a nasty heavy attack in the direction of the tank, as long as it's aggroed or taunted. And you must block that, because if you don't, 9 times out of 10 you will get stunned, knocked into the air, and dropped into one of the Shadows spinning AoEs, and that's a bit of a mess. If you're not standing there blocking it, you're probably going to die, so be careful. This stage here, we do get lots of little tiny adds, which the boss basically calls in at last minute. And the tank can chain them in and kill them if you want, or you can just keep your dots down, and as they run in, just finish them before they hit the boss. Or failing that, if you've got enough damage, go straight for the kill. But remember, key points for this fight: if you get a beam on you from enslaver, move to one side, drop your Shadow, come back in. Enslavers must be killed. The boss you can stack on top of the enslavers, but the Shadows don't have to be killed, and if you choose not to kill them, make sure you stay away from them. Now, this round can be either very, very easy or a bit of a nightmare. And the reason being is because there is a cleanse mechanic in this one. As you can see on the ground, there are lots of symbols. Lots of different Mundus symbols on the ground. Now, if you get cursed by a Shadow caster, you must go to one of these that are lit up and stand in it until your curse is gone. Every single person will be cursed. You all have to find one pad each, and we will actually demonstrate this in here. Now, once you understand where everything spawns in here, you can actually preempt kind of a nuke on each one of those Shadow casters, but we deliberately want to show you the mechanics. Now, very simple pulls, bring them all into the middle, get them down as quick as possible, stay out of their faces if you're a DPS or a tank, and make sure, of course, as a tank, you prioritize the big targets. Mainly the two-handers, sword and boards, any mages, anything like that, especially these little pyromancer things here. They do hit very, very hard, and they have a nasty flame attack across the floor, which can one-shot, so be very careful of those. Scorpions aren't too bad, but you do have to make sure you grab the two-handers and the mages. And this gargoyle coming in, very, very, very basic mechanics for the gargoyle. Just exactly the same as every other gargoyle in the game. You do a little bit of a flurry, and he will slam the ground with a big circular AoE on the ground that you have to stay out of as DPS or healers. The tank can pretty much stand inside of it, but the group need to move. However, they don't have a lot of health, so it's very rare that you'll actually see that mechanic. Above all, make sure the tank taunts it and turns it away from you so you don't get squished. And if it's not facing the right way, just make sure that you move a little bit so you're not in front of his face. Now, on the north side, we're going to get a Shadow caster. This is where you really want to drop your ultimates and everything to make sure you get them down as quick as possible. These must die. If you don't focus these, you get cursed. Now, that time we didn't, but we will show you in a moment what happens when you do get cursed, and we'll demonstrate the mechanics of what you need to do if you get caught out. So, you want to focus those down, of course, first of all. Then you're going to get a gargoyle. Bring him in. Don't stand in his face. The tremor scale type dude as well, they can be a bit of a pain in the ass because they do go under the ground and kind of burrow up and start hitting you from underneath your feet. But they don't hit too hard. Look at them as kind of crocodiles, and basically as a tank, you should just turn them away from the group, and the group should be able to manage them in that manner. However, these little dudes with the two-handers and dual wields and stuff, you do need to make sure that you are careful of where they are standing. Because if a tank hasn't noticed one yet and it sneaks up behind you like you saw a moment ago, he will heavy attack you. You've got to be careful. Now, on the third round, we're going to go over to the west side of the map. And this is where our next Shadow caster spawns. So we need to make sure that we're ready for that. If you've got ultimates, drop them. If not, just focus as much damage as possible on the Shadow caster alone. But watch out for that assassin because he does stun. And if he stuns you, obviously you're not doing any damage, and that Shadow caster will be alive for longer, meaning you have a higher chance of being cursed. We do have other adds in the room as well. We've got a warrior that you have to watch out for because he'll heavy attack, which means you need to block. And we also have some scorpions as well. They're not that bad. So just make sure that the tank obviously pins them to the ground, turns it away from the group, and you can burn them down as quick as you can. However, now we've got a gargoyle. So again, we've seen these before. Turn them away from the group. If it's on you as a DPS or a healer, just make sure that you block for the time being until the tank can control it. If not, just dodge roll his attacks. But do not run around the room like a headless chicken. It will not help. The tank needs to have control here. Watch out for the two-hander, prioritize him after the gargoyle is down, and also watch out for the casters because those pyromancers really, really hurt. You've got to keep your eyes on them. If they do anything that is channeled, make sure you interrupt them. And if they start casting a flame across the ground, you need to step to one side, otherwise it will kill you. A DPS with 16k health or less will die in one shot. Now the fourth round, we do have a Shadowcaster here. We've also got some on the last boss as well, but we'll deal with this one first. And we've basically made it so that we deliberately force the mechanics here. Remember to always get rid of the two-handers because they really, really hurt. The tank needs to block them. Turn the gargoyle away from the group and deal with the smaller adds as and when you can. Watch out for the dual wields because they do stun you and they do try and heavy attack as well. If they do heavy attack you as a DPS or a healer, remember you can block. It's a basic mechanic. Everybody should know how to do it. Just block it and you'll be fine. Now, this round we should have started on the west side of the room because if we did, we'd have encountered this Shadowcaster and got rid of it. But we deliberately forced it so that we wouldn't quite kill it and now we are cursed. There's 4 pads in the room. Everyone must agree to get 1 each. And anyone that doesn't get to their pad before it disappears will die. Instant one shot. So each person must get to 1 pad each. Sometimes they can be across the middle of the room. Sometimes they can be really, really far away. But you must get 1 pad each. So if you are unsure of the Shadowcaster mechanics, well, that was just shown for you to make that a lot easier to understand. Kill it or get to a pad quick. If people try to stack up on the same pad, however, the first person that got there is going to live. The second one's going to die. Now, this boss fight is very, very simple. He starts off on the north side of the map, as most bosses do, and he will spawn a Shadowcaster right away alongside a Gargoyle. So this is your opportunity to drop your ultimates if you have them available, and you have to make sure, of course, the Shadowcaster dies. Otherwise, you have to go and cleanse on pads, just like I demonstrated a moment ago. So do get the Gargoyle down, do get the Shadowcaster down, and then focus on the boss afterwards. The tank should keep it turned away at all times, and you have to watch that big negative AoE because the boss does drop kind of banner effects and nasty flame effects, and if you do touch them as a DPS or a healer, you're going to die incredibly fast. So we do a little bit of damage here, keep them on the spot for a little bit, make sure that we can burn down some AoEs and passive dots and stuff like that, and then midway through the fight, when we get the next ad pull, we move over to the west side of the map. Now this is where you want to get the boss and stack him near the door and pull all the ads into that vicinity as well, and manage them as best you can. The Gargoyle, obviously, remember, has to be turned away from the group, and the 2 minions with the two-hander and the dual wields, they need to be dealt with quite quickly, otherwise they will really, really hurt you. The tank must not drop the boss. He will put a flame breath on you, he will put nasty AoEs on the ground. That flame breath will make the AoE stronger, just like the DK, and you do not want to get caught by it. So, there's a slam from the Gargoyle we spoke about earlier. When the boss gets to around the 40% mark, because at the moment he's doing nothing except for dealing with the tank, the Shadowcaster will spawn in the corner here. This is where, again, if you've got ultimates, you can drop them and get rid of that Shadowcaster as quick as possible. Try not to stay in the AoEs because they will wreck you. If you don't kill the Shadowcaster fast enough, you will, of course, get cursed and you will have to go and cleanse. From there onwards, it's just kill the ads and then stack and burn. It's very, very simple. The Pyromancers have to be killed very, very fast, otherwise they will put the nasty flame across the ground and kill you. But in the meantime, the boss is now just at his kill me phase. Nothing else happens. The basics are the same all the way throughout after the Shadowcaster and the Pyromancer are down. Now, of course, the round is over. We go through the gate, we get our loot. So make sure you pick your chest up. Repair if you have to. Check your charges and stuff as well. Maybe check your food, because this is quite a long arena, and especially if it's your first time, you may be in there for several hours. If you're lucky, you won't be, but maybe you will. Who knows? Some people are quite adept to it straight away, and others take more practice. But make sure, of course, you utilize that repair and merchant, because you are going to need to, as you can see there, charge your weapons up. Now, I didn't really need to, but we did it just for the sake of it, just for the demonstration of the video. You will have to make sure that you've constantly got your resources up, your potions are ready, your food is ready, and all that good stuff, because the last thing you want to happen is to run out halfway through. Now, this round is pretty simple, but it can go horribly wrong really, really fast. Werewolves need to be killed very, very quickly. The lurchers need to be killed quickly. And you need to watch out for the big green circles on the ground. Yes, green normally means friendly, and technically it does, because it does give you stamina back. But if you stand in it, per second, not only will it give you stamina back, and quite a hefty amount as well, but it will also take your health away. The longer you're in it, the faster you die. It's really, really horrible. So do not stay in those circles. If you quickly nip through one, fair enough. If you can manage it, you'll get some resources back. But if you stand in it for more than a few seconds, you will die. So don't use them as kind of hug-up spots. You'll see what I mean in a moment once these ads start dying, because they are dropped by the enemies. Now put everything in together as quickly as you can as the tank and turn it away from the group. When the werewolf dies, there's a circle on the ground. Now as you can see, they look like nice friendly healing circles, which they are, but not for you. You do not want to get caught in it for long. You can get your resources back either sneaky. I think later on I put a little bit of a tactical dodge roll to go through there and get some stamina back, but you don't want to be in there for more than a second. These ads are not too difficult, but the ones you really want to watch out for in this arena, especially after round 3 onwards, is the archers. Interrupt anything that channels, otherwise you'll be stunned, and make sure that if there are archers in the room, 2 things must happen. 1, they must die, and 2, if they try to heavy attack you or take aim, you must dodge roll it. That is also extremely relevant for the boss of this arena as well. If an archer is aiming at you specifically, you've got to dodge. Now, this can be managed in a very easy way, and that is for you to stay apart from each other when you see the archers or when you're on the boss, but we'll explain that in a moment. These rangers, this is what you're looking for. Interrupt them if they do the arrow spray, and if they look at you, dodge. If you don't, you will get a stupid amount of resource drain. It's absolutely mental. You will have your stamina drained to hell. You don't want to get caught by it. I do get caught a couple times so you can see how bad it actually is, but it's really, really nasty. As you can see, we've got a couple of casters in the room as well. They do need to be pulled in by the tank. You have to be fairly quick with your chains if you've got access to them, or silver leash, or whatever you're using, depending on what tank class you are. But pull all of the things that can be chained into the middle. The rangers, however, cannot. If you do run really, really, really low of resources on stamina, you can run through the circle, but I wouldn't risk it. Now, the next phase, you have to be very careful. This is where we start getting more rangers. The first one was on round 2, actually, not round 3. But now we've got one in this corner here. As you can see, she just hit me, and look at my resources. They got whooped to hell then. All of a sudden, just started, they're still going. Draining, 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 draining. It's going to go completely out. That's really horrible. If you get that on the boss, you don't stand a chance. You are not going to be able to heal, you're not going to be able to do damage, you're not going to be able to buff up, you're not going to be able to do a damn thing. Make sure you don't get caught by that shot. And that's why you want to spread out if you see the archers. Make sure that you can see physically which direction they're aiming at, and if it's you, dodge roll at the right moment. We've got one in the room again, so you got to watch out to the back there with a big banner. Werewolves aren't that stressful. Tank has to make sure, obviously, to keep the taunt on them. They don't hit the DPS that hard, but you do want to maintain DPS in the middle of the room so that they do start dying once they come in. Again, got caught, got drained. You don't want to get caught by that. As you saw, I just ran over that circle and got like 25% of my stamina back just in 1 second. If you stay in there for 2 or 3, you lose your health as well. All of it. Now the rangers, there's 1 on round 2, there's 2 on round 3, and I think there's 2 on round 4 as well. You do have to be very careful with those. All the rest of the enemies aren't that bad. You can just pull them in the middle, make sure your tank has aggro, and keep your damage up. As much area of effect damage as you possibly can, and also just be very careful of those casters, because you do have to interrupt those occasionally, and don't get stunned by the Nightblade types, anything that jumps at you. Got another ranger here. Be very, very careful if she's aiming at you. We've been over this already. She's looking at me right now, so when she winds up a hit, I need to dodge it, as I just did, and then we're fine. Now it's hit and screw, and he just got his resources drained, so that hurt. The other ads that come out, all these little minions here, bring your tank towards the ranger, because you can't actually chain the ranger in, so bring everything into this corner and just burn it down and finish the round off. It's really not that harsh. The boss is a lot easier than some might think if you focus together as a group. Now what you need to do here is get a coordinated formation in place. So to start with, we look a little bit scatty, but you need to make sure that you hold the boss on the little green patch in front of me there, where I've just now dropped my beast trap. Kill the ads with AoE, let your tank control them, and there is the boss. Now she'll only move off of that patch if you run out of her aggro range. But the trick here is to spread out and have your own space. you pretty much stand where you are doing your damage, and if she looks at you, you dodge roll. So as you can see, we're all in different locations now. Tank is in front of me, Screw is to my left, Super is to my right. We've all got our own personal space. You can interrupt her take aim, and at the same time, again, remember every time she looks at you, should dodge. Screw got caught, now he's got resource drain. That's what you don't want. Now obviously our healer's very, very quick at noticing that, so he put his heals in very, very quickly to make sure that he stays up, but he can't do anything with his stamina right now. He's got no resources at all. The Lurcher will be in the middle, of course, with the Werewolf. You do have to watch out for that circle, because when the Werewolf dies, remember, it drops a circle on the ground. Don't get your feet caught in there because you'll die. You can get stand back, yes, but you will take a massive amount of damage. As you can see, she's hitting Screw again. He did try to shield it. He dodge rolled way too late and got caught, so his health went down rapidly, but luckily Super is on it. So as long as you've got a good healer, I mean, you can get away with that, but I wouldn't advise deliberately getting caught. And again, it's firing a Screw. He dodge rolled that time, no resource drain, everything's fine. If you manage that as a group and you can stay apart from each other and just dodge roll every time one person gets aimed at, she'll never hit anybody except for the tank. And the tank doesn't really get hit that hard at all by anything that she fires. So very, very simple, stand still and kill the boss fight, but if you do get caught by that arrow, you're probably going to die. So be really careful with that one. Now, of course, the round is over. Through the gate, pick up your loot. Don't forget, you get a chest every single time. Repair if you need to, and then go through the portal. Now this one we do split up a little bit as the rounds start. So I go to the north, Super goes to the east, and Screw goes to the west, and Fire actually stays fairly central to grab any adds. The reason is because most rounds you will actually get sacrifices walking towards these tiny altars that I'm standing on top of right now. If they make it to the altars, they will summon a Daedra. So you do not want that to happen. We'll get Jeff's in the room, which is a Daedra. You'll get massive Daedra spiders. You can even get Nigel, which is a massive Titan. Yes, I know, we've still kept their names from the live streams. So you want to make sure you kill the sacrifices as soon as possible. So we all kill one each, and then we deal with the adds afterwards. Sacrifices are primary targets. There are two different types of sacrifices. You've got the basic one, which I've got there, which you have to kill before he gets to the altar, and then you've got the armored ones, which have more health. But basically what we do, we all kill one each, and if you've killed yours, you look around the room and make sure that the other guys are dead as well. Make sure that if your healer on the right is trying to kill one, obviously they don't have as much damage as DPS. If it's not dead, go and help him out. If your DPS guy has got the armored one that's not dead yet, go and help him out. In the meantime, the tank is really busy in this particular round, or this arena, because there are a lot of enemies. They can heavy attack, they can stun, they can put out nasty flame damage. You really, really have to be on the ball here, and the tank has to grab as much aggro as possible and turn it away from the group. Any Daedroths that come in the room must die, and you want to stay behind them. Otherwise, as you saw, it stomps the ground, puts fire everywhere. It will really, really hurt the group. Clan Fears as well, they do jump with a heavy attack, which knocks down, so the tank has to grab their attention very, very quickly. And if it is on you as a DPS or a healer, make sure you block him before he lands, otherwise you get knocked on your ass. Next round, we're going to get sacrifices again. These do start coming into the fight a lot faster rather than just at the beginning, but again, they are primary targets. So as you can see, there's a Spider Daedra there, but I have to focus the sacrifice instead while keeping an eye on the Spider Daedra and making sure I don't get wrecked. This is where the tank is really busy. Everything must be pulled into the center. You can nuke these down with ultimates if you want, but you do need to make sure that everything is as close as possible so you can get as much area of effect down on the floor as you can. Otherwise you're in trouble, because dealing with these one after the other can be quite time consuming. Kill the sacrifice always first. These Daedra here, these nasty flame stuff, where using ones really hit hard. You see that nasty area on the ground, that eruption cast, the DK ability? You stand in that, you're dead. Don't stand anywhere near them. The tank has to be very, very active in this fight. As far as pulling adds and keeping an eye on all the aggro is concerned, this particular arena might be quite possibly the most difficult on the tank. So you have to be very, very careful. Lots of interrupts, lots of chain, and lots of CCing. Going into the third round, we are going to get sacrifices again. Remember to always get back to your spot, because as soon as they spawn in, you are very limited to the amount of time that you've got on the target. You have to get them down before they reach the altar, otherwise you're screwed. Sacrifice there. There is a Jeff in the room. Hopefully the tank can get that off you as soon as possible. You do have to kill it, of course, but the sacrifice must go down first. As you can see, Fire has pulled everything into the room. We have got a sacrifice on Super's side, so we have all gone over to get rid of it to help him out. Always help your group get rid of their sacrifices. Otherwise, you're getting another massive Daedra or Titan or spider in the room that you do not want. Again, these little ads that look tiny, they're not. They hit very hard. Be really careful. This dude here has, obviously, as you are probably familiar with, the DK wings, which means if you hit him with projectiles, they will fly back at you, so be very, very careful. Try to keep your damage physically direct, in that it's not a fireball or a bow shot. You can hit him with an axe or hammer or whatever, but don't actually fire single shots at him. Spider Daedra needs to die, and so does the other ad. Make sure you turn him away from the group. Pretty standard stuff. Stay out of stupid, turn it away from the group, kill it. Now we've got this sacrifice again, and a clanfear. As you can see, the tank grabbed that instantly, so it doesn't jump on my head. Screw's sacrifice is dead, mine is dead. We move straight over to supers to make sure they all go down, and his is down as well. Now, everything is stacked in the middle nicely with the tank, and we can start killing stuff. Again, be very careful not to stand in front of the Daedras, because they will kill you with their nasty, nasty flame attacks. Another sacrifice. Everybody goes to their sides to check for a sacrifice, make sure you get it down. Screws isn't dead yet, so I have to make sure I go over there and give him a hand, and then help him out with that Daedra. And in the meantime, quickly run over to Super's side, because he is a healer, he doesn't have as much damage as a DPS, and I have to make sure I help him out and get his sacrifice down as well. So you have to be really, really active, be aware that they're in the room, coordinate together and get them down. Sacrifices first, everything else second. The tank has plenty of time to get all this stuff nicely clustered up, as you can see. What a stack up that is. And while he's doing that, that's your opportunity to get rid of the important targets. These can all be dealt with afterwards. The tank can maintain their own survival within these ads for the most part, as long as they're not too squishy. DPS and healers, however, if you get affected by all those targets at once, you're dead. Now this here is the boss, and there are two of them, and they are hell. Remember, sacrifices first. They will come in threes. Get your sacrifices down first. The boss and the two bosses, in fact, need to be held in the corner. They can be held wherever you want, but we've purposely done it in the corner. And basically, the sorcerer with a big banner and the dress, that one needs to be interrupted all the time. She will cast crystal frags and negate bubbles and all that nastiness. And also the Templar one, as you just saw down there, that was not a positive Nova. That is a negative Nova. The sword and board dude is a Templar. He will fire Novas onto the ground and wreck you, and this sorcerer will do everything else. So above all, we want to focus this sorcerer as much as possible while interrupting all the time. Whenever she channels anything, you must interrupt. Otherwise, people are going to take massive hits. That crystal frag can actually one-shot DPS. During the fight, of course, sacrifices come in the room. Switch targets. Keep on interrupts if you're close to them, but get those sacrifices down. Now it's on the tank to keep on the interrupts and then maintain taunts while we deal with the rest of the room. We have got a Jeff in the room, but luckily for us, we're actually near the healer, so he can keep us up while we're trying to burn it down. But the tank can pull that into the group as well, if he's aware of it. But again, make sure that you prioritize everything that isn't the boss, and once they're all dead, that's when you want to fight the boss. That was evil. That was a negate bubble followed by a Jeff fireball, so be very careful there. They can stack up. They do hurt. Don't get caught. Ninja dodge roll bash. Don't try that at home. Now, it doesn't matter how low that boss's health is. Even if she's got 10k health, you must interrupt her when she casts, no matter what it is. Otherwise, someone is going to die. Now, the sacrifices have come back into the room again, so we do have to split up again. The boss can be left with the tank. The tank just has to interrupt a couple of times. That's all he has to do. Now, this is a very, very important thing to note, by the way. If you have a Templar in your group, whether it be a healer or a DPS, and you are utilizing Nova, call your Novas. The reason being is because when the boss drops a Nova, it's so similar to our own. It doesn't necessarily have any color around it to notice that it's a negative. You just see it in the middle of the room, you assume it's got a synergy, you look for it and it doesn't have one, and then you wonder why you're dead. He will drop a Nova on you and it will really, really hurt. So if you are using that skill, call it so that people know that you're firing yours and it's safe. We do get ads here, we do have to make sure that you kill them, of course, but we have got sacrifices in the room. You can kill the boss here if you've got a stupid amount of damage and you think you can push it, but better safe than sorry. Go around the room, kill the sacrifices. There's no need to wipe here. Just get rid of these sacrifices, stick to the mechanics, and then go back and kill the boss. This isn't stressful in the slightest. Finish him off with whatever you've got. Also, again, watch out. That was a friendly Nova. If it's a negative one, hopefully your group member will say it's not theirs. Now, Again, key points for that fight. Interrupts are key and sacrifices must die. You do not want a Titan, a Daedra, a Spider Daedra, and the 2 bosses at the same time, because you won't survive. Now the next round, this is also very, very tricky. The round itself isn't too bad, but the boss is very tricky. However, something to note in here, it's not the big dudes that will kill you. It's actually the mages. The mages have massive damage from their ice light attacks or heavy attacks, and you have to make sure that the tank pulls these in as soon as possible so you can get rid of them. They really, really hurt. Now, there are, of course, Dwemer enemies in here, and if you leave the spiders alone and they charge up, other Dwemer enemies can go over to them and benefit from that. So you don't want to let that happen. So if you see any spiders, make sure you nuke them down quickly, or at least hold them away from the other enemy so they can't charge each other up. Now remember, in here, mage type enemies are your priority. If 2 mages in the room decide to focus 1 DPS, that person is going to die. Some have got flames, some have got lightning, and some have got frost. You have to make sure you get them down. The tank should pull them in as soon as possible. The pyromancer does a nasty AoE across the ground, so make sure you stay out of their face. And also, as you can see here, we've got the Dwemer spiders. These are what you do need to kill quite quickly. They're not that much of a threat on their own, but they can power up other Dwemers, so you do want to make sure that they go down. As you can see, we've got 2 mages that have come in together there. They both tried to light attack me from range. The tank had to grab them really, really quick to make sure that they didn't try and nuke me. Otherwise, we would end up struggling. Now this dude here with a 2-hander just dropped a negate bubble on my head. That is not a negate bubble from our friends. That is a negative. If you're inside of it, you can't cast abilities. So you do need to kill him fairly quickly, but above all, make sure you stay out of his negate bubble when he drops it. Doesn't do that much damage, but it will prevent you from doing anything at all. You will see some larger Dwemers shortly, but they have their own unique mechanic. Mages straight away. As you can see, our tank was very quick off the mark there. Pull him straight in. Watch out for the 2-hander because they drop negates. Keep your AoE on the ground. There's the negate. Stay out of it. See, our tank even had to get out because he can't even heal or use Ignis shields or anything. Now these Dwemers, these are important. That blue one there, I just interrupted. If you don't interrupt it, he will put 2 circles on the group. 1 frost and 1 fire. Now those 2 circles have to be overlapping for a set amount of time, for a few seconds, and then they'll go away. If you don't overlap them, both players will die. There's 3 different Dwemers. One does a spin, one does a heavy attack, and the other one does that channeled ability up in the air, the blue one, which I interrupted. Those are what you need to look out for. These ones, if they start spinning at you, just go around in a nice tight circle to keep them in the dots and they'll die. But the blue ones must be interrupted. Your key focus when they're in the room is seek out that blue one, interrupt it as soon as possible, and kill it. You must focus the blue Dwemer. We do show you that mechanic in here, actually. Now we've got spheres. They have nasty range attacks, so be very, very careful. Do not let the spiders start charging because these spheres can actually be buffed by them. So this is why you want to get the spiders down quite quickly. As you can see, he's trying to charge him up there. Didn't quite make it, but they do really, really hurt if they get buffed. Blue one straight away is your focus. As soon as he puts his hand up, bash him. Do not let him cast that ability. Otherwise you are in deep, deep trouble. When he's spinning, just stay out of the AoE. And when the other dudes start spinning around the room, just go around the nice circle, interrupt the blue one again, and then you'll be just fine. That happens quite regular, by the way. Every 5 to 10 seconds or so, that blue one can go for another cast. And if he does, do not let him get away with it. Again, as you can see, the mages are coming in, trying to sneak in with little light attacks and heavy attacks. They're barely noticeable once the big Dwemers are in the room. That's the danger. Because you're not paying attention to them, they will wipe you very, very quickly. 3 Dwemers, where's the blue one? On the left. Make sure you interrupt him ASAP. As soon as he puts his hand up, bash him. There's the interrupt. You can drop ultimates on them if you want, but you must keep eyes on that blue one at all times. Even if you're moving out of the way of this spinny dude, make sure that you keep him interrupted. Now, once the spin has stopped, he'll have a little bit of a breather. You can normally just kill him on the spot. He has a fairly long rest, actually, once he's finished spinning. He's not that bad to deal with. More Dwemers coming in, spiders and spheres. Make sure you nuke the spheres down as fast as possible. But, of course, if they do start channeling from those spiders, you need to focus the spiders. They do hurt, so tank does have to be fairly quick. Grab these mages straight away, otherwise they will hit you from range and kill you. As you can see, there's a frost one at the back there. Those are the ones to really look out for, because they've got very fast light attacks and they hit extremely hard. They can also put up ice walls as well, which are quite difficult to get around. You look like you're doing loads of damage to them, but you're not. You're just hitting the wall in front of them, so make sure you pull them in quite quickly. This is the boss. This is where you have to be very careful. Do not nuke the boss. Now, you need to spread out and find your own space, because he will try and drop a meteor on your head. Deal with the mages first of all. Make sure you keep interrupts on the boss at all times, anytime he tries to channel. And if you have a circle around your feet, like a meteor is now coming into your vicinity, or it's going to land on your head, make sure you block. If you don't block, it will kill you. So block and then get out of the AoE on the ground. He'll put flame runes on the ground as well. As you can see, our tank nearly stood in one. That will throw you up in the air, so just be careful. But while you're going through the fight, get his health down gradually, because the health percentages are what trigger his mechanics. So you saw then about 80%, we got the Dwemmers in. Straight for that blue one. Make sure you interrupt him and burn him down first. He is your primary target. Ignore the boss unless you're the tank. The tank just needs to keep a taunt on him. All you need to do as DPS is keep on that blue one. Every time he puts his hand up, interrupt him. His other minion, he can be dealt with quite easily. The tank can just turn him away facing the boss so that he doesn't hit the group, and you can kill him and relax. Whenever you get a flame rune on the ground, stay away from it. Whenever you get a meteor on your head, block and then move away. Whenever the boss channels, make sure you interrupt. Otherwise that flame wall is going across the ground and you're going to die. Now when his health goes down lower again, around the 40% mark, we'll get another wave of enemies. And this is where it really, really hurts, because we get a lot of them. Remember, you must kill the blue ones. Now we're at the 40% mark. Here they come. Get rid of these as soon as possible. We've got many of them coming in, but this blue one has to be interrupted straight away. Otherwise, the circles happen. There are many, many enemies here. Just move around the room to get away from the spinning ones. The tank needs to keep a taunt on the boss at all times, and that didn't get interrupted fast enough. So we are now in trouble. Two people have circled under the feet. There's a big one there, and there's one to our right as well. There's a white one and a orange one, and they must be stacked on top of each other. As you can see, our two friends have stacked on top of each other's feet, and they are staying there. If you stay there until that finishes, you will survive. If you do not stack up on top of each other, the two members that are affected, and it pops, you will explode, and both of you are dead. So you must focus on that blue ad. No interrupt, you both get a circle, and you have to stack. No matter what the mechanics are, no matter what trouble you're in, that's what you have to deal with. Now, once those are down, that's when you can really go all gung-ho and just kill him. Stay spread out in a nice circular formation around the boss, so you've got plenty of room for when the meteor lands. Tank keeps it away from the group, so face away from us and interrupt when necessary. There's no more ads after 40%, just get them down and you're done. Now, we're approaching the last round before the final boss. So there are 2 more rounds technically, but remember, pick up your loot and repair. But this is the last 5 round, or 5 wave round if you like. So this one is quite tricky. There are lots of holes that appear in the ground, and the skeletons will try to drag you into them. And if you get dragged in, you have to fight enemies downstairs before you can come into a portal to come back upstairs. And if you die, you die. But there is a little trick here where you can kind of have a bit of a safety area, if you like. So what we do is we run over to this corner on the left here, and we hug up in this corner as tight as possible. Note, by the way, your healer will have to be healing like hell in this area of effect. Keep your dots down at all times, and your tank, if you can, help keep up damage shields. There will be a Wraith spawning here all the time, this ghost on our left, and that one needs interrupting almost instantly. The rest of the time, if we stay in this vicinity here, anything that comes close, the tank can chain it to us. If you step out of this area, they will chain you to them and you'll get sucked down the hole. So you can place yourselves wherever you want, but this is one of the safest places that we've decided to stand in. So interrupt those guys instantly, otherwise they cast some nasty frontal AoE and we are bunched up, we don't want to get caught by it. The rest of the time the tank should stand fairly far back and chain everything into us. Yes, we will have AoEs on our feet, but the tank is throwing out damage shields, the healer is staying way on top of the heals, and we can just kill things in this little corner here. Do not deviate from this corner. If you do, you will be pulled into the hole in the ground. To start with, of course, you can't really see those. They do start coming into the next round. But just get yourself into that kind of routine where you keep close to this corner. Most of these can be interrupted, so make sure you pay attention to those, otherwise you get arrow sprayed. In the meantime, keep an eye on this corner where the torch is, because that's where the ghosts appear, and you do need to interrupt them as soon as they spawn, otherwise you get nasty ice AoE across the ground, and you'll all get stunned, and some of you may die. Now you can see from the distance, there's the holes in the ground, they've got arms coming out of them, they pull you into the floor. Well, we're going to get more of those. That's why we're in this corner, so we don't get sucked into those, because they do chain us too. As long as a tank doesn't leave this corner, they won't be able to reach enough to get you in there. If you start running around like a headless chicken, you're stuffed. So again, stack and burn in this corner and pull everything in as much as you can. If you don't like this method, by the way, and you are having trouble in this corner particularly, I know some tanks get a little bit too brave and step too far forward, and they get pulled into the ground all the time. If you don't like this position, you can kind of stand where the doorway was, where the gate is actually where we first came in. You can stand there if you like as well, but just be careful. Again, stack and burn, keep your damage shields up, keep your heals up, keep chaining everything in, keep as much area of effect down as possible. This is much more of an area of effect fight than it is direct damage. So just keep those dots down, especially if you have stamina as well, just spin to win if you have to. Watch your sustain though, because you're going to need it for a couple heals here and there. As you can see now, that negative AoE that the tank is in is going to disappear, but the small one in front of him, that's the hole in the ground we have to avoid. That's why we're here. Where he's standing at the moment, he can get chained into it. Where he steps back, he won't. Ghost spawns there every single time. Get it down as quick as possible. Now, this is where things start getting a little bit weird, mechanics-wise. We are going to have an enemy shortly that will take 1 damage every hit. When we get to that, I'm going to explain a very unusual mechanic. But for the rest of it, for the most part, keep pulling these in. Keep stacking, keep burning. There's no real stress here if you stick to this method. If you are suffering resistance-wise, or your damage mitigation, maybe you don't have many CPs, you may want to move from here. This is more if you've got everything kind of all shinied out. You don't need all gold gear and all that crap, but if you have got max CPs, this is quite easy to sustain. If you don't, you may want to move. Failing that, just get your tank to throw out more damage shields. This is what we're looking at, this banner boss right here. He will only take 1 damage. 1 damage every tick. Why? Because he's connected to a ghost downstairs. So I jump in the hole. This is why I've got corrosive armor on, just in case I get hit too hard. So now that I've gone downstairs, and this is what happens if you get sucked into the hole, you've got an ad, and you've got his ghost. Now if you kill it, he will then be able to be attacked. But you have to be very careful, because you've got mines on the ground, you get hit really, really hard, but whoever goes downstairs kills these, and then gets to go back up. Once it's dead, the guys upstairs are now nuking him because he can be hit. This is extremely important for the last boss of this arena. So, we're back at the beginning again, I've come back in. He can now be killed, but it's on a timer. So if you don't kill him quick enough, he will go back to taking 1 damage every tick again, and I'll have to go down and kill it again. You can go down in 2s if you want. You can go down on your own if you want. It depends on your own experience. If you are struggling with it, you can maybe even send the healer down and the tank can try and help keep people alive, whichever. It's entirely up to you. But if you're experienced enough, you should be able to go down on your own and deal with them. Just watch out though, because they do heavy attack and you do need interrupting. Last round before the boss. Make sure everything, again, is pulled in to this corner. This is where you can drop your ultimates if you really want to, or you can just keep up your passive heals, your sustain, and your shields. Damage shields are quite important in this particular corner, because we do get AoEs under our feet that we can't really avoid. We are moving to one side a little bit, but sometimes they do land on your head. More ads to pull in, and now we've got the other banner boss. This is a different one. He's got a 2-hander, so the taunt on this guy has to be quick. Make sure he is blocked if he heavy attacks. By the way, that's very important. The last one was a caster. He fires out crystal frags, and if he hits someone in the face as a DPS or a healer, they're going to die. Tank's got to be quick to grab that taunt. I've gone back downstairs again, obviously, get rid of the ghost, get rid of his little minion, and everybody's happy. Now he can be killed, and he is actually getting hit right now. I wait for the portal and go back upstairs. Screw's probably dropped the Destro on him by now, so should be pretty much dead. Yeah, he's dead. Now, for the boss of this arena, what you need to do is obviously as a tank, hold the aggro on the boss. Do not drop a taunt. In the meantime, pull all the adds in so we can keep damage on the ground and keep the heals coming from the healer so that we don't die in stupid. We will have to stay quite close together because we want to make sure that these adds stay within the vicinity of the boss so that any damage that we do keep down passively kills them, while you focus on the main target, of course. I would primary that ghost that we've just killed it already, but I would primary that one because it does have some nasty channeled effects that you want to avoid. Now, don't force your ultimates at this phase. Stay together and just do as much damage as you can without using your ultimates if you can help it. The reason being is because those banner bosses are now coming. We will get both of them. You'll get the one that fires crystal shards that can nuke a DPS in one shot, and you'll get the two-hander that can do pretty much the same to a tank if he's not blocking. Now, when they come into the room, you want to make sure that the tank holds them on the boss. So take the boss to them or bring them to the boss, whichever works best for you. They can only take 1 damage each, and 2 of you want to go downstairs. So while you're down there, you can drop your ultimates if you really want to, or you can just hold your own and try and survive while getting these killed. But if you kill the two-hander ghost, then the two-hander can be hit. If you kill the mage ghost, the mage can be hit. So you want to kill those 2 first, and then get the adds down, and then go upstairs in the portal. But watch out for those Daedric mines, because they do really, really hurt. Got a little bit gung-ho with my Steel Tornado then. It wasn't really doing much damage, but never mind. Now, once the portal's active again, the tank is still upstairs, fighting alongside the healer, holding those adds and the boss together. But because the ghosts are now down, they're kind of spirit versions of themselves, or their counterparts, whichever you want to call it, they are gone, so we can now attack these 2 minions. Get these down as quick as you can, because if you don't get them down quick enough, you will have to go back downstairs again. Once they're down, pretty much kill the boss. Hold her still, do as much damage as you can. If you've got ultimates left over, go for it. If not, then just keep doing what you're doing. You will have to move the boss occasionally when she puts the bats down, just to get away from the group. Apart from that, it's pretty much a stack and burn fest for the rest part of this. You will get more adds in the room, but you don't really have to focus too much on them. The tank can bring them in, and the amount of damage that's on the ground already, even if you are lower CPs or lower DPS, static wall of elements and caltrops on the ground is normally enough to get rid of the remaining adds. You do, however, as a tank, have to make sure you pull them in quickly, especially that ghost on the left, because that will need interrupting. So grab them, pull them in on top of the boss, and just continue doing what you're doing. We did have to get out of the bats a little bit there, but as you can see, without really applying too much damage, they don't have a lot of health anyway. From here on out, it's just keep doing what you're doing. We are basically just stacking and burning. Stay out of that though. She does have a nasty stun. As long as you don't stand in any of those circles, you won't go downstairs again. As long as you don't run off, as long as you don't drop the taunt, the rest of this fight is easy. Now, we're coming up to the final boss. This is when you do want to repair, because this can be rough. You may have seen a certain way to do this, and yes, I'm fully aware of it. I've done it many times, but I'm not going to show you how to cheese this. I'm going to show you how to do it properly. And we are also going to force a couple of mechanics as well for the do's and don'ts of this particular fight. So, instead of stacking in the corner there and messing around with taunts at X amount of health and bringing it in with the healer and all that kind of palaver, we're actually going to show you how to do this controlled. And for some groups, this might actually prevent wipes, because the cheese version of this, although very fast, can actually go horribly wrong. So we're going to explain everything. So basically, the boss is going to come in and we're going to hold him into the middle of the room. Now, when we have flame circles under our feet, we're going to spread out to 4 corners of this flat area of land, or kind of, it's on a hill, but you know what I mean. We're in an open space. We're going to go to 4 different corners and wait for those flames to pop. That doesn't make any sense. Keep watching, it will. So pull the boss in straight away and do as much damage obviously as you can to start with, but do not use your ultimates. You are going to need them. He doesn't have a huge amount of health. He's basically a target skeleton. For the tank, it's quite simple. Just hold him still and block the heavy attacks, so everyone else stay out of the AoEs. Now we've got our circles. Assign yourself to 4 corners. Do damage. Keep healing. And in the meantime, when this pops, it will place the fire on the ground. Get out of it. Every fire AoE that is on the ground has now got a flame atronach popping out of it. Now the tank can chain these 4 adds in, and you can kill them. So, bring them in and kill them, while keeping the boss taunted. Very, very simple at this stage. Now, Once his health goes down to around 70%, he will spawn 2 ads. Now these are bosses from the previous rounds. One of them is actually from round 1, and he has his nasty circle of protection. Now if you remember rightly, you shouldn't make him stand in it. That also applies to his ads. And in this fight, it also applies to the boss. Now while the boss's health is still passively going down, unfortunately the boss is standing in the circle of protection, which means he is healing. So we did focus the mage on this fight for the purpose of making sure that mechanic happened, but what you really want to do is focus the sword and board guy as soon as possible to make sure that circle of protection doesn't happen. Both of these need to go down. You will get another mini dude in here with very, very low health. He does this nasty flame wheel effect. You do have to kill him. He hits really, really hard, so just pay attention to him. You can even drop ultimates on him if you want. But again, you get the flame phase again. So find an empty space, drop your flame AoE, and when it's gone, get out of it. Oh, misplaced that one. And drop your flame arrows. One of the bosses is down, the other one's still alive, so we're going to focus him, obviously. But in the meantime, your tank needs to just hold on to those two and pull all the flame arrows in. Opportunity to drop ultimates, kill all the flame arrows, they're priority targets for now. Don't worry about the rest, ignore them. If the boss does get loose, just block, he doesn't hit that hard. Now once the flame arrows have gone, obviously the boss has healed a stupid amount of health. He shouldn't do that, but we've deliberately kept hold of the sword and board to show you how inconvenient that could be. Get rid of all of those, and then focus on the sword and board. Once he's gone, no more circle of protection, and you can get back to the boss. Now obviously his health has gone back up again. Does that mean he spawns the bosses again at 70%? No, it does not. You can just carry on as normal. So, hold him still, kill the ad, kill the boss, and then you'll get to the next phase. If he heavy attacks you, by the way, just block. Like I said, he doesn't hit that hard. So what you've seen so far, basically, as far as basic mechanics are concerned, is when he puts a circle of flame underneath each one of you, find a corner each, drop it, come back in. When the flame arrows come in, kill them. 70%, 2 previous bosses from previous rounds come in, and you want to kill them both as soon as possible. The boss is still not a major problem. If you overlap with more flame arrows, so be it, as we saw. Try not to keep him in the circle of protection, because he will need to obviously be moved out of it, otherwise he'll heal up. Now under 50% health, he'll do a massive AoE blast, and you need to make sure obviously you survive. You can block this, you keep heals up, you can keep damage shields up, whatever you've got. He'll do a huge spread of damage, and it won't actually kill you outright. As long as the heal is fast, you will be absolutely fine. Now also, at the moment we've obviously got flame arrows, but when he gets around to 40%, he will drop 2 more ads. Now these also are bosses from previous fights. Mainly the one that has the negate bubble and the one that has the nova. So watch your feet. You have to interrupt them, you have to make sure you don't stand in the gate bubble, and you have to make sure, of course, you interrupt that sorcerer boss, otherwise your crystal shard you in the face. But essentially here, hold them all together, interrupt them when you have to, and keep hitting. Now at low health, around 20%, he'll do the deep breath, big suck in mechanic again with a massive blast. Again, just block it, keep your heals up, and heal quickly once it's gone off. It won't kill you as long as you heal fast. And then after then, it is literally just stack and burn. Rinse repeat if you get arrows, but you should have him dead by now. You can either kill the ads or just hold them still and focus the boss. It's entirely up to you, but interrupts are key.
And so that which could not be broken finally shattered.
So hopefully that helped, hopefully it wasn't too boring, and hopefully you now have a better understanding of how to approach the mechanics of that particular arena. I know it's quite a long arena, there are 10 rounds, it is quite challenging, especially if you haven't been in there before. If you're extremely experienced, obviously you won't be watching this video anyway, and you'll probably smash it to bits, but if not, hopefully this helped, especially the non-cheese version of how to kill the last boss, because I know even the cheese version, although it's really, really fast, can have its problems. So hopefully that was somewhat beneficial. Anyway, this is actually the first of 3 Arena All About Mechanics videos. This was the first one being VDSA. The next one's actually going to be Black Rose Prison. And then after that, I'm going to be doing Veteran Maelstrom Arena as well. So there are 2 more Arena All About Mechanic videos to come. And of course, in due time, these will be on the in-game add-on as well. So you can read the description for all the different bosses inside the game with the add-on itself. So, first of all, thank you all very, very much for watching. I hugely appreciate the support. And if you're not subscribing already, please do hit that button. It is free. Furthermore, if you want to help support outside of the channel, there are some links in the description for Patreon, Twitter, Facebook, the website xynodegaming.com. Don't forget, I do stream every single night from 10 PM UK time on Twitch, unless I say otherwise on Twitter, and of course the add-on link is in the description as well. Once again, thank you all very, very much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.